right.
Welcome back to the show.
Hello.
Today we have Bronte.
Hi.
She runs the Gastown store. Does a
You'll
great,
see me there.
amazing job.
Thank you.
I commend you and your work.
Wow. Great. Thanks.
And we have Amy,
Yeah.
who some of you guys have met. If you follow the podcast, we did a couple episodes, and she is now my partner.
Yep.
Special episode today.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
One that's a bit of a different one compared to the usual content.
So today we're going to be talking about Shein, talking about fast fashion, why they suck, I guess.
And our opinions on them.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of you might be like, I think the audience that you have is like, who's Shein?
You think?
Could be.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think
So
a lot of
that's a
guys
great
are like,
place to
I've never
start.
heard of
Yeah.
Shein.
Might be an introduction to the company. And then not just our opinions on it too, but what it means, I think, for like the vintage industry and consumerism in general.
Yeah, totally. So we all know fast fashion, which y'all maybe don't even know fast fashion.
'Cause we don't shop
Maybe
it.
not there, but I don't think everybody even knows that term. I think that term is known within fashion or like our business. But if you're just like a random consumer, you might not even have heard the term fast fashion.
Really?
Yeah, I've had people say I don't know what fast fashion is. Because here's something to think about. We use this term fast fashion all the time. We never say slow fashion hardly, right? Which
Unless
vintage,
it's like a very specific company or like that's like a selling point for them to say slow fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like the percentage of companies that use that versus the other side that don't say anything is massive.
Yeah.
So why don't we start there by defining what that is? What is fast fashion as compared to slow fashion?
It's items of clothing made super, super cheap at breakneck speeds. And like now, even more than fast fashion, there's like the rise of ultra fast fashion, which is the likes of Shein, Boohoo, Fashion Nova, all that kind of thing, which is like where they're getting styles out from like conception to like selling is, I think, as little as 10 days.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
So typically they're copying somebody's design.
Yeah.
That's how it
Well,
starts.
they're copying or like, coming up with something, but a lot of times copying. A lot of times we were researching it before too. It's the supplier, like the factories are saying like, oh, we found this design, we'll make it for you. And then Shein or other companies like it claiming, oh, we didn't find that design ourselves. We didn't realize it was copied. But then they're getting made in like small batches within, like 10 days. And then they're selling
So they
them
go
within,
from concept to sale in 10 days.
like
As little as, that's like, but like it's still super fast. Like I think in, back in the day, there's like a lot of research being put into the styles of, seasons and, what did people want, all this kind of stuff. And it would be like this huge process of like designing it, tweaking the designs, making sure they fit really well. And then producing the garment was like, 6 months to a year out. Now it's like literally they've got AI and like technology that scrolls through TikTok, Instagram, whatever, picks up these and is just copying shit. So they're picking up these trends, well, not even a trend, just something that like a viral video. They're like, let's copy that. And then it takes them, literally like they're not doing like a fit test or anything.
Totally. So has Shein put out Pinkman hoodies yet?
I don't know.
I don't
It's
know
a
if
good
they're on
question.
that. We'll see.
Okay. Hopefully they don't.
I bet they
ruin it all.
have.
Yeah.
They're watching our videos right now.
Probably.
The reel I made yesterday is on the Shein AI.
Yeah.
Guaranteed though, if you sit in like a Shein design meeting, whatever that looks like, they must have designers, right? And teams of people that do this shit.
Yeah.
They have like everybody else. It's just like boards of all the coolest brands, all the vintage trends up on their walls, and they're just fucking knocking them off like super quick.
Yeah, I think they do trends, but I think maybe the difference between, like you're saying, an ultra fast fashion brand and like a regular fast fashion brand like H&M and Zara that do have to do a bit more of like a collection or like a seasonal thing, or at least like coordinate a corner of their store to look cohesive and all the same, where they're like, okay, are we doing like florals for spring and like white and denim? Like they're having to like think about a whole thing that could go together, rather than Shein is literally like, this pair of swirly patchwork pants is popular on TikTok right now. Get this into a production line as soon as we can. Produce 500 items. If they sell well, produce 1,000 more, produce 1,000 more. So that's like the really quickness where it's like we don't even have to think about a whole trend or like a whole look. It is literally like one item that we're trying to
and because if
sell.
you go to the website, there's nothing about that website that is cohesive,
Yeah.
strategic in any like sense of
It's
the
like,
word.
you want
Like
it, we have it.
it's
You want it,
literally
we
if
have
you
it.
want a Halloween costume for your cat, we've got it.
Yeah.
If you want a pea funnel, we've got it.
Yeah.
If you want a
Pea funnel.
yeah, apparently they have that on the
Yeah.
website.
Oh, geez.
Like the most insane
Okay.
stuff. And then if you want like, you know, a new bikini for your European vacation, we have
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
Like everything and anything. It's kind of like the Amazon of fast fashion.
Mhm. And there's lots more like it too.
And so
Temu,
let's
Cider.
talk about what is slow fashion then.
That would be I think a more thoughtful process of like conception to design, usually within a smaller team. I'd say a clearer vision, people getting paid the right amount of money to make it being made well, to fit a body of like good materials that aren't going to poison you. And yeah, just a much longer process.
Mhm.
Do you guys like, I think this is interesting because I think most people don't think about this. Do you have brands?
Of what that is slow
Slow
fashion?
fashion.
I mean, most businesses that are made within like North America, within like reason, not all, anything that's like a runway or haute couture, anything made by hand. I think a big difference between
Your brand?
yeah, I don't know.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, mine. Anything that you're making, like somebody
The label.
making their own clothes and stuff.
Bronte the label.
Yeah, Che
Show the
the label.
label.
Say the label. Sorry.
I think a big difference is like the factory line, the like production of it. Like in Shein, it's like one person is making the hem of a shirt, they're passing it on, they're making the collar, they're passing it on, blah blah blah. It's like the assembly line. I think that's what makes it so fast, rather than making a garment that somebody's like in a studio and they've gotten the pattern made, but they're making a whole dress themselves, or like a team of 5 that are making like a whole production line.
Yeah.
Like it's like craftsmanship.
Small runs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely classified slow fashion. I also think there's more to it than that. I think like something like Carhartt, because I think Carhartt's built for a purpose. It's built to last. A pair of Carhartt pants are like they're made for a construction worker to last you a long time. So it's like that is slow. How long does your clothing take to disintegrate? Also denotes slow fashion, because when you think about like in today's world, they're making things to disintegrate, so you buy it again fast, right? If they make something that they're like, we want you to have this for 5 years, that's slow to me.
And also Carhartt isn't feeding into trends. Like they have, a few styles and they just keep repeating that same thing. It's like find what works and keep doing it, rather than not just making like a new season for every week that builders and tradesmen are like, oh my God, I got to have the new Carhartt pants. I don't know, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, totally. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Filson for me is like a brand that I really like. They're like 100-year-old brand. They're still doing some made in America, not all made in America. I was in their store recently and I was kind of disappointed because I'm like, it was all made in America at one point. Now it's like 25% maybe.
Do you know if that's for costs, like labor costs and stuff?
I would imagine.
Yeah,
Probably the
that's
growth of their
another reason.
brand. They only have like one factory in Seattle. It's like small. Right. So they make like their higher end stuff in America and then they make a bunch of stuff in China. But then again, I bet you if you look at Carhartt, it's all fucking made in China now. And I would still denote that as slow fashion. And then I would still say like, I know there was, I forget the name of the brand, but there was that brand that did like the pyramid marketing scheme where they sold leggings by moms.
LuLaRoe.
Yeah, that shit was made in America. So you're like, that is fast fashion as fuck. And it was made in America. So you're like, you can't just say made in America is slow fashion either.
Yeah, 100%. There was just a like big legislation that came into play like only a few months or like maybe 6 months ago that Remake helped initiate. But there was like to help protect garment workers in LA because, people were like, oh, made in America, like made in LA, whatever. They think it's really good. But there was huge like garment workers' rights violations because they were paying them per piece. So there's like all these loopholes where brands can still exploit workers. And often these workers are like immigrant workers. So they, exploit them because maybe they're like don't have English as a second language or whatever. And there's still ways to exploit people even in like Canada, North America, wherever they're getting produced. It's not just like, oh, cool, it's made in America, it must be great.
I think that's a point of fast fashion inherently is like exploitative of usually
Yeah.
the people and the environment as well.
Yeah.
And ideally slow fashion is not doing that.
Yeah, totally. So what about this though? Okay, so this is one I told these girls I'm bringing up all the arguments here. Okay,
Devil's
Love it.
advocate today.
because
I'm sweating.
You gotta do it.
This
You
is
gotta
where
bring
this
it
is
up before
this
the trolls
this
do.
is where like the good stuff comes out.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if it's totally ethical,
Mm.
but it's still made shit product? What if like they take care of the workers, pay them all good, give them all the vacations, but they make fast fashion product ethically?
I just don't
What do
think
we think about that?
it wouldn't
What-
sell because it
define
would be too
ethical.
expensive.
Ethical meaning like the same wages that a Filson worker gets in like a perfectly nice factory in Seattle, but they're actually making like shit that's meant to last you a month.
But I think there's
I
a
don't
lot
think
of
that product
parts
would
of-
sell. Nobody would buy a $50 shirt if it's
True.
shit. Like you couldn't pay the people enough and sell it for a price point that people would pay. At least not for long. You might be able to do a drop online. People are like, yeah, it's going to be sick. And they get it. And like, this is awful. Which is why I was surprised that we'll be talking about Shein. The Shein pop-up kind of worked, I guess, but I don't see it lasting. It's because people are going to be able to go in and
be like, this
feel
is a
it
piece of
and
shit.
like smell the plastic and the fumes and be like, why am I paying for this?
Like, come
So
out,
I feel like-
I'm woozy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that
Okay,
kind of thing,
no.
it just wouldn't work. It's
That's
inherent to its business model.
It's a very good point.
Thank you. Well,
Mm.
first round.
Yeah. Very good point. Okay, sweet. So we've debunked fast fashion, slow fashion.
That was easy.
Mm.
Now let's talk Shein.
Yeah.
Give the history
Like
back.
why is Shein? I think this is a big question that we've got so much on. Like we put a few posts up about the protest and the
Well,
pop-up.
not conversation that we had.
The pop-up that we were doing, and people are like, why is Shein so much worse than any other fast fashion brand?
Mhm.
And to put it into perspective, Shein is more than double the size of H&M and Zara combined.
Yeah. It is about 50% of the market share. It makes
Yeah.
more money than them. It sells more garments than them combined. Even a few others in there. It was Zara, H&M, Forever 21, and there was another one I can't quite remember. But
Fashion
yeah,
Nova,
or bigger than all of those put together, making more money than all those put
Yeah,
together.
there's like a lot of graphs online where it's like, like a bar graph, and it's
Yeah.
like, H&M, Zara,
Shein, yeah.
and then Shein is like here.
Just crazy.
It's just like the growth of this company is just phenomenal. I think it went from like, it only started in like 2008. It was like the first initial like iteration of Shein. It was called She Inside, and it made like wedding dresses and stuff. And now from 2012 was when it kind of was like more like called Shein, and then they kind of started on their like whatever the trajectory that they are now. But it's gone from 2012 to 2024,
Yes,
and it's now
$10.
$68 billion. It got to $100 billion actually.
Yeah.
It did.
A couple of
It's
years
gone
ago.
down.
It's gone down, which is great news.
I think it.
Well, that was probably the COVID online rush.
Yeah, it peaked and grew a lot during COVID. It was saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look, I saw that number and was shocked because $1 billion is 1,000 million. It's a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Right? So most people don't even fathom what $1 billion is.
Yeah,
They don't
it doesn't
think
really
it-
make sense.
Yeah. And when you put that number beside like American companies, it's like it's in the top 100 American companies. Like it would
was
be like
in 2022 it was the biggest fashion retailer in the world. I think fast fashion retailer or fashion retailer, one of those two, but in the entire world.
yeah, it's insane amount of money. And I
Yeah.
was thinking about that too, and I'm like, how could they do that? Like we've been in online sales for years. The gravity of that is insane. And I think, I don't quote me on this, but I bet you like a ton of their sales come from places like Africa, where like that's what they can afford, and they're going to like some third world countries because there's no way that would all come from America.
I
I just-
think I
think
feel like it'd be
it's
more
mostly-
China, like where they're based, because I don't know, it's so like online and shipping. I don't know. I just feel like it would be more in those countries and like Asian
I think it's
countries.
mostly Western countries, to be honest.
I mean, the demographic is what you said. It was 30 like middle-aged women making around $60,000 a year.
$65,000 a year.
Was the highest demographic of Shein buyers
Yeah.
because it is so
Yeah.
based
no, that's not Africa.
Yeah.
If that's the demo, and I'm not saying
Africa's
that. I'm not
drowning
saying
in
that's
our
an
own-
excuse.
Yeah.
I think it's still a problem. It's also a problem for if it is Africa, it's also a problem for their economy. It hurts their local economies just as bad as it hurts like say our local economies, because it means that those people aren't buying locally from things that they have around them.
I mean, they do have so much around them, just from what we're selling them to. I don't know if an online market. I don't know. I actually don't know. But I just feel like they're going to like local. If it's like they've got like the markets there that we're sending all our shit.
Yeah, like
to.
Africa is where like the largest secondhand clothing market in the world is in It's in Ghana, called Kantamanto. And to put it into perspective, they get 15 million items of secondhand clothing imported into the country every single week, and the country only has 30 million people, like population. So they're like literally drowning in our fast fashion.
They just have to walk outside their door to see Shein.
Yeah, they're probably getting tons of it.
Yeah. So this is also a problem for the rag trade. So now people within the rag business are having to like come up with alternatives. A lot of rag businesses going out of business now because they're like the bales have too much fast fashion and they can't sell the fast fashion, right? They can't sell bales of fast fashion like they could sell bales of normal American clothing. So it's flooding the rag business, which is like hurting everybody. Everyone listening to this podcast is probably vintage dealers for the most part, and it's gonna wipe out a big part of this business long term.
Yeah, like, that's what we were talking about too. Like it's like right now the problem, there's a few people seeing the problem, and obviously there's like environmental issues and workers' rights and stuff, but I think there's like a bigger problem that's going to come for business in general, and like when the cycle comes that we're starting to see it back in these places where we're supposed to be getting our goods. It's just going to be
100%. And like this is something I was talking to with like an owner of these warehouses. It's a big problem that so much of this stuff is fast fashion. It gets shipped overseas, and then there was like a big conference that happened in, I think, Dubai or something like that, where essentially these sorting facilities were coming under fire because essentially getting blamed for the amount of fast fashion ending up in places like Africa, India, South America. And Shein funded a $15 million report to essentially pass the blame onto the sorting facilities for the amount of shit going to these countries, rather than obviously the blame should be getting put onto the companies that are producing all this shit
in the water.
But it's all like very political, I guess. And when you're a big $68 billion company, you can pay whatever like report, like buy whatever report you want to try and pass the blame and make it so that you don't have to take accountability for like the afterlife of your clothing.
Good point. Good point. All right, so let's talk more about the roots of this company. Do you guys know how it like grew like this so crazy?
Yeah,
let's talk about like the company itself.
It started, as I said, selling wedding dresses, and it's very much like the business model is kind of like Amazon. So like rather than having like, it's not like H&M, Zara, where they like manufacture, well, it's, in some ways it is, but like a lot of these big fast fashion brands, they're responsible for like all of these, like creating the designs and then outsourcing to factories that will then go and make this stuff. Whereas Shein is almost like its own marketplace. So it has all these independent businesses making stuff. That's why there's like so much random stuff on the website, like the fucking cat costumes, like clips to hold your sheet onto the bed, like random as shit. And so that has like, it's like this huge marketplace. All these sellers have like an independent login to the website, which will give them data on like, they put something on there and they're like, oh, we only sold 100 of those, don't make any more, or like these sold out in like 2 hours, make a million of them, kind of thing. So that's kind of like the business model and how it works. And then a lot of these products, rather than getting shipped from a huge like shipping warehouse or whatever, it all gets shipped out individually from these factories, from these independent sellers. So then they avoid like huge tariffs on export, because usually when you're like, and especially this is a thing because they don't have a brick and mortar, they're not shipping like huge containers worth of product to certain countries to stock a brick and mortar store. They're sending just individual packets to customers, like directly to the US or whatever, and it's under $800, so they don't have to pay taxes on that. And yeah, and then I think a lot of the reason that they're growing so fast is because they've utilized influencer marketing so effectively.
And like social media, and just also they use a lot of AI to learn trends really quickly and be able to sell back immediately what people want. And then I think also the way they do it with the batches has allowed them to like grow really quickly and be super reactive to any trend. They can hop on it as fast, maybe faster than anybody. I don't know if they started by doing it faster than anybody and that's what kind of propelled them.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we were talking to the PR lady Milka at the pop-up, she was saying, she's like, yeah, we do like, I was like, she was trying to say it as like a sustainability thing, but I think it's just something that benefits them. Making things, they usually make it in like 100 to 200 item batches, and then based on what sells, they'll either immediately start making more or dead it immediately. So they're like trimming the fat really effectively. They're going to say like producing less waste, but that obviously that's kind of bullshit just based on the numbers that they're making. But I think that's another reason.
For sure. I mean, it's just smart business.
Yeah.
Don't make shit that doesn't sell. That's how you grow. And then also when it does sell, they probably go into production of like the multi-millions of units.
Yeah.
And they also pass that, like the burden of holding onto stock onto their individual like sellers, because like they're never purchasing all of that stuff off like these people and then holding.
So are you
onto
saying
a warehouse.
that it's effectively a marketplace? It's not a. So then.
And then I think they also have their own stuff that they get.
When we're talking, when we're talking Shein as a corporate entity, like that 60-something billion dollar number, is that like the whole marketplace, or is that just Shein? Like so where do you read about this marketplace structure?
I like listen to it in other podcasts and stuff mostly.
Do they own these other vendors, or are they totally independent vendors?
I don't know.
I think they own it because the owner of Shein, his like
it must be
his it's like privately owned, and his stake in the company is about half. Like his like net worth is about half the company. So surely he's making that money. Yeah, pretty much back. So I feel like that they own that, or they pay out these.
Yeah, it's not like exactly like Amazon, I guess, where just like you or I could just like put our stuff on.
Yeah, put our link on there if we want.
And it's not like our brand. It's like still, I don't know. They didn't really go into it. The podcast that I would
imagine it's like he owns the vendors and they're just shipping from He probably to feed that much billions of dollars, you probably need like hundreds of factories producing garments.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot.
I think too, they use that to their advantage in like passing off blame for a lot of the things that they get.
Yeah. So if you have like a separate corporation that has like violated like human rights.
Yeah.
It's like, it's
that one does.
Yeah.
Then that corporation would get charged, not Shein Corporation potentially. Right. Yeah. So like you can pass off blame. Yeah.
It's I think it's the factories. And that was a big thing when I was looking up all of because they get accused of stealing designs from small businesses on the daily pretty much. And it was saying that it was like the factories or the production places, I'm not sure if it's just considered a factory, are like finding these designs, be like, oh, we have this, we found this picture, here's a design that we can make. And then Shein just like, yep, check, do that, sure. And then afterwards, they're like being brought, the small businesses are coming and saying like, this is our thing. This is literally our photo that you're using. And they're like, oh, well, that was an independent designer that like brought this design to us. We didn't know, like, we'll stop it, or they just don't answer at all. So I think that it is like these.
Yeah. So they're kind of like, it's like this very gray area where they're like, it's like not very transparent. They kind of like don't have the full ownership, but they kind of do because it's all still branded Shein. Yeah. And then they just kind of like pick and choose what they want to own and what they don't want to own, kind of bit, you know?
Yeah. The I would imagine they are like a punch first, ask questions later type company where like they're just going to produce whatever. They probably get a lot of lawsuits. They probably have to pay a lot in fees, but they don't care because it's so minuscule compared to what they're making. You know, it's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Right.
We were listening to one this morning, and a small business had like her photo, like literally photos taken of the products that she has, and then she got like a $40,000 payout, and then they immediately did it again, like right after the lawsuit, they did the exact same thing, and then she brought it again, and then they did another payout, but they didn't say the number too. But I imagine they just don't care, or at this point are so big that they might not even have to answer like 10 people on TikTok.
they're like,
Not that it's
whatever.
in the tens, it's in the hundreds, probably thousands, but it doesn't really make a difference to them anymore.
Yeah. And like a lot of clothing trademark law is hard. It's not like if you paint a picture as an artist, like that's your rights, you own that, right? But if you create a t-shirt, like nobody owns the t-shirt, you know what I mean? You can't trademark that. You can only trademark like very specific details, technologies,
so
potentially
true.
some designs, but you can't trademark everything. It's crazy different than like a lot of trademark law. You know, for an example of that, the Patagonia snap tee has been copied recently by tons of people, and Patagonia sued like multiple companies for copying that design because they're like, this is a specific design,
like the pattern of it.
The pattern, it's like the pocket placement, all the details are the same, and they've copyrighted. And that one, there's a Retro X there cardigan, and that one's been copied, and they can sue for that because they've trademarked that specific design. But like a lot of things aren't trademarked and people get screwed. And I'm sure Shein still pays out on some of it just to like get people to stop bugging them. But this is how fashion, it's how it works. It's fucked up. And even the big brands, like there's so little new, authentic, 100% unique design anymore, which, you know, it's like as a designer, like you're a designer, like you'll take inspiration and you'll create something, right?
And I think like there's a difference between that and like what they're doing, which is like literally taking the photos from.
Oh yeah, totally. They're straight up copying, 100%. So another example that I know is like Forever 21, right? Yeah. They were like early fast fashion.
Who sells their items on Shein now? Actually, just like that. Yeah, they partnered, I think last year, so they sell. Yeah.
So in some sense, it is a marketplace where a big company like that can sell. Yeah. So I don't know what happened if Forever 21 still has stores in America. Do they? Or
they have them.
Do they?
No,
didn't they?
I knew they were like they had a big problem a few years ago, and like they had to close a lot of them anyway.
Oh, I feel like I was in one recently for some reason. I mean, it was a dream after the Shein popped up. I lost in all these fast fashion stores.
So they used to have this thing called Vintage Fridays at their office in LA, where if you were a vintage dealer, you could just go bring them cool shit to their office in LA. They would like buy your stuff, have it like produced within like a couple months, and it's on their shelves.
Wow.
Which is like the extreme copying side of things. And then there's like, but then all designers do that. It just depends. Like, are you taking something and making it your own, or are you straight up blatantly copying something? Yeah. Because there's no design in that. I was speaking to someone a couple weeks ago in LA, and they were like, there is no. Basically, he was saying there's no such thing as a designer anymore.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, he was being very pessimistic, and he's like, because there's always a level of like, it's like you're not reinventing a pant. It's like a pant's a pant, a t-shirt's a t-shirt, a dress. I mean, women's wear it gets more a little different because you can design a lot of different things, but there's so much inspo there. Like one more story I'll tell on this topic while we're on the topic of copying. So Frankie Collective was my rework brand, had for years. It's still around, but I don't own it anymore. We made the mini bags out of windbreakers, right? So we'd take windbreakers, we'd cut these little like pouch bags, put cute handles on them. The girls designed like 10 styles of these mini bags. They sold like crazy. They were popping off, and they were selling to China like crazy. Like we would do a drop of these things, and we would sell anywhere from like 100 to 200 like within an hour of the drop.
Wow, crazy!
It's fucking going off. Yeah. And it was all to China. We're like, what the hell is going on in China? Why all of a sudden are people buying these in China?
What's going on over there?
And I guess it's because they have like different social media in China. They have something called Weibo or WeChat. Yeah. There's there's different social media platforms over there. Like they don't get, unless you're like on a VPN in a lot of parts of China, you can't even go on Instagram. Yeah. Right?
I think Facebook too.
So somehow we went like viral in China, and then these influencers were buying these things, they're posting them, it was like going off. It was going like this for like 3-4 months, making as many of these things as we could, and they would sell out. They were selling to the States too, but like mostly China. Then we start seeing like people copying them. But the irony is that we were making them out of recycled materials. We were
Mm.
reworking them, and then people were making them looked reworked out of China, brand new.
That's like the worst.
And people kept hitting me up going like, I saw your bags in this weird store. I saw your bags here. I'm like, those are not our bags.
Yeah.
Like,
That sucks.
they're just copying this
yeah.
shit. Because they like these companies, it's the same with like Alibaba or platforms like that, where these companies will literally just latch onto a trend. They don't care what it is.
Yeah.
If they see dollar signs, they're gonna take it and run with it.
Yeah, that's what I hate about these fast fashion brands is like they're copying vintage trends. So then something will be like really cool and unique, and you know, like there's not many out there, and then all of a sudden there's like hundreds of thousands because they've copied.
And then I feel like it, to people who may not be able to tell the difference or don't like care to, it like devalues the original product too. Because now they're like, well, this is like for your bags. They're like, this is the exact same bag. This one's $6, and yours was, I'm not sure what the price point was.
Yeah, they were like $80.
Yeah, well, a fair price for what's being like designed and made and sewn. Yeah. And now they're like, well, it's the same thing. Why can't you make yours cheaper without like thinking critically about like labor and stuff like that? So yeah, it's a bit of a lose-lose. And they're bad for the environment, and they're probably uglier.
Yeah, and it kills the trend.
Yeah,
it does. So like, you know, those I Love Me t-shirts that we made on like we did them on like vintage tees, obviously. But then I was on the Shein website. I was looking for like
imagine they had the exact one.
Yeah, I was looking for like feminist t-shirts to like use for a post, and then they had I Love Me t-shirts.
Well, yeah, that's fair. That's, and then I was like, now as long as they don't have the I Love Being Sexy, they might.
I don't know. They might. I was like,
better not.
Now I hate it.
I saw this meme where it was like laughing about like a fast fashion t-shirt that was like for human rights or something.
Yeah, the amount of ones that are like, I love being a feminist, and it's literally made by a woman who's getting paid $1 a day,
getting exploited.
That's crazy.
And now it's Earth Day's today.
But
this won't be out on Earth Day. But happy Earth Day, everybody! Yeah.
What have you done for the Earth today? Think about that. That's the question.
So, I love those t-shirts where they're like, you know, we care, or like Earth, like thank your mother or some shit like that. I always find them at the rag, and I'm like taking a photo. It's like, what the fuck do you care about? Like
nothing.
Saving the world one shit t-shirt at a time. Yeah, sucks. But
so guaranteed, all these fast fashion companies are posting Earth Day shit. Right now.
Well,
making millions.
At the Shein pop-up, we were looking more because we didn't go inside, but apparently on the first day they had a recycling set up. You'd bring your old clothes and recycle, and then they were donating them to, I couldn't figure out, some non-indescript Vancouver charity, but they didn't say the name, so I don't know what that. Putting them in a bin. They're like, here you go, here's the charity, to like encourage like clothing recycling. But I'm like, and then they would get a discount for the Shein item, which is crazy. You're like,
they're like, make some room in your closet because you're gonna buy more shit.
Yeah, and then they also had their own great name in Evolution brand that was like they're like sustainably done, like recycled polyester, like recycled wood chips. I don't even know, but it's just crazy that they like, because they obviously know the problems, they know what they're doing, and they know what people want, so they're just gonna like trickle feed the smallest amount that they can to make it look like they actually care about anything, and then just that's it, and then they feel like they've done their part.
Yeah, what do we call that?
Greenwashing.
Yeah, greenwashing. Yeah,
harsh greenwashing.
Yes.
Green
bleaching.
When you look into those like recycle programs or the take back programs, the problem is that like, you know, I say this a lot, but sustainability as a term is like kind of invalid.
Yeah, because nothing's sustainable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing is really sustainable. You want to like do your best. You want to create something that's more sustainable. You can say more sustainable, but it's not going to be sustainable. And you know, something like you mentioned recycled polyester or like the pop bottles into like polyesters. That shit's like very bad for the earth. And like I'm not saying that I didn't fall for that. Like we did a project for Frankie that was recycled. It's PET they call it, I think. And you know, sure, you're taking bottles out of the system. Sure, maybe those bottles would have ended up in the ocean. Sure, probably would have went to landfill. Who knows? But the energy consumption that it takes to recycle those bottles is more than creating virgin plastic.
Exactly. And then once it's been recycled into a t-shirt or some kind of fabric, that's the end of the line. It can never be recycled again. Like when it's in a bottle form, it can be recycled into another bottle and another bottle. But once it's a fabric,
too is
it's
also
never.
just like so poor.
On the greenwashing thing as well. I don't know if anybody listening heard about the influencer campaign that they did that got like so much. They got
flamed for that.
Oh yeah.
Hard,
because they took all these influencers, flew them first class, put them up in the Four Seasons, and like took them on a tour around the facility. And it was, you know, all like brightly lit and all these like
happy,
stupid
like,
influencers are like these guys are like honestly, like I saw it with my own eyes, like they're being paid fairly, they were really happy to go to work, they're getting, you know, like just like such bullshit, and you're like, how stupid can you be? Like, you think they're actually going to take you to the real factory? Like,
and there are videos of the real factory. I think one of the things that
there's a documentary, I think.
There's a few, like one CBC did one.
Undercover cameras and shit.
Yeah, because a lot of a big thing that we were hearing when we were talking to people at the pop-up was like, oh, well, I guess, like, because we were asking, like, what would make you not want to shop here? Like, what information would you need? Well, one, what is making you shop here? And that was the hugely price and convenience. And then one was when we were like, if you knew this information, would that change your mind? And a lot of people were like, yeah, maybe, like, I kind of know. Maybe if I, like, saw these people talking about it specifically or saw the workers and stuff like that. And there are videos. There are lots of, like, undercover, not lots with video, but of the workers being like, I'm not getting paid the first month I work here. I don't get breaks. I've been working for 17 hours today. I'm getting pay deductions if I make a mistake on a garment. I'm making $1. Like,
and they're paid per piece. So like the reason why they often work these insane hours is because they have to in order just to make enough money to make ends meet.
Yeah. So there are these videos out here. I guess it's just a matter of like spreading them a bit more or something. But that was a big thing we heard. People were like, oh, maybe if I heard it from like the horse's mouth itself, I would change my mind.
Totally. So I guess like moving to that pop-up that they just did, because they're doing pop-ups in a lot of places now.
Yeah, they're supposed to spread like a disease across Europe in this summer. So watch out for a city near you. They just put a new like headquarters in Dublin or something.
Yeah, crazy. So this is kind of what sparked this conversation is the Shein pop-up on Granville Street, Vancouver.
It's the first one.
Which was like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
And you guys went out there to educate people on who the brand is, alternatives, find out what they were thinking, why they were in line. I was shocked when I saw the video of the lineup. I'm like, who are these people lining up for Shein?
3 days
like it was like a Supreme lineup. Like,
it was
what
insane.
the heck? Is this like some hype limited shit? No, it's just fast fashion crap.
Yeah.
So it is very shocking. And it's funny too. I saw that post you posted too. It was like Vancouver newspaper posting people's comments on the post about the Shein pop-up. And like most people who were commenting on the post were saying this is fucking disgraceful. Who are these people lining up? This is so bad for small business in Vancouver. So you guys went out there, you did your thing, talk about the vibe, give the whole lowdown of that scenario.
Yeah, like, well, first of all, like, the reason why we went there, one, to, like, just, I guess, educate people for sure. We had a bunch of signs that were like, it's cheap because somebody didn't get paid.
Meg was with us out there holding the sign.
Yeah.
Shout out, Meg.
So, there was an education piece for sure and like an awareness piece, but also just like as a company at Frank, we are like really dedicated to trying to find ways that we can help encourage people to shop secondhand, live more consciously. And so a big part of that is like really finding out what's driving this consumerism, like what's the appeal to shopping at these brands, and like how can we try and provide a more sustainable, like more responsible alternative.
And just vintage stores in general, like what?
Yeah, like what is it?
Because like arguably that's like our competitive. That's the antithesis of our business. Like we're all both in the fashion industry, but they're doing the complete opposite of basically what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think something to note here. There's like so many sides to this whole thing. You have like the human treatment side, right? Like on Shein, you have the terrible impact to the environment side, and then that plays into like the cheapness of the clothing. But like we can all agree without a shadow of a doubt that like that something this big like an Amazon, like I will say the same thing for Amazon. Like Amazon takes money out of the pockets of local fucking people.
Yeah.
This like takes money directly out of the pockets of local business that need it, that straight up need it. And all of you guys out there, it's the same. This stuff goes all over the world, to any corner of the world. Yeah. And it's like a monopoly of fashion. It's a monopolization of the industry. Like you guys said, the 50% market share of the industry. It's such a monopolization. Our world is going into an era of monopolization in all industry.
Yeah.
Like Amazon, like Tesla.
Food. Like
food. Yeah. Like Bill Gates owns fucking... like all the farms now and all the housing, and BlackRock buying up all of our housing. And then you have Amazon bought Whole Foods. So even the healthy shit is owned by the worst people now.
Yeah.
It's like, so this is a monopolization of our world. And then what happens? They literally control it all. They get to say what they say, do what they do, and we have no fucking say anymore.
Yeah.
So it is important to make a stand like you guys are doing. And like, we're trying to help people figure out the ways around this.
Yeah. So a lot of the people in the line, because there was a line for 3 straight days. You said that you knew it was a 4-day pop-up. So 4 straight days, there was a line pretty much the whole day. Whether that was them playing it up a little bit on the last day and just not letting people in for an extent of time, like that 100%. Might have been it. But a lot of people said that they'd never shopped on Shein before. I don't know if that was because
I wish we went to the Thursday. Yeah, because like I think the first day would have been like really hyped up, but still a lot of people were like, I've literally never shopped.
Like I don't know. A lot of people seemed not a lot of people wanted to talk to us. Even though we were coming up with like smiles, no camera, we were just like, okay, we're just having a conversation. A lot of like no's and looks away. It's like, don't even look on me. Yeah, but I guess I don't know. Maybe they didn't notice it was on. But so I think a lot of people felt like shamed to be in the line at all.
Yeah, a lot of shame going.
Yeah, a lot of the people. Nobody wanted to be filmed. Surprise, surprise. I guess. One guy, but he wasn't at the pop-up. He was just on the street.
That was the only guy that let you film him?
The only person.
What?
Yeah. That was the only person all day. I got so many no's that day. It was crazy.
Wow.
Brutal.
So that's interesting to think about. All the shame, yet they're still there.
Yeah. A lot of people left with no purchases whatsoever. We had some really interesting talks with people afterwards that came up to us, and they were just teachers, and they were like, we literally just went to go see what was going on. Yeah. We teach, we are doing like a sustainable fashion segment in our class, and we just wanted to see what's going on. So a lot of people were just going to see the hype. Like a lot of we had a lot of like really cool people that were like, we're just into thrifting and we just want to like know what this is about. They come to the store afterwards. Which was cool. A lot of people were like, I've never bought online before. I just wanted to see it in person, I guess, because it is so infamous. And then a lot of people. And then we were asking people, what made you come here? What do you like about the brand? Have you shopped there before? The thing that just kept getting echoed was price and convenience was like definitely the highest, the biggest factor. And then and we were like, okay, so like what we were trying to like get people to think about the price of the garment less than like, you've just paid $5 and you've gotten this shirt, and like how many times are you gonna wear it? When is it gonna fall apart? Do you even like it that much? Like, are you gonna...
And trying to get people to like understand, like, okay, if it's $5, how do you think somebody, because there was that one lady we spoke to, and she actually makes clothes, and we were like, how do you think that someone can make a, an item of clothing for $5 and someone's still getting paid? And a lot of them were like, oh, it's because it's like mass produced, it's because it's in China. And like, there's just a lot of misconceptions. Like, people are like, I guess, don't really sit with that and like,
they don't really want to think about it.
They don't want to think about it. They just are like, oh, there's ways that you can mass produce a garment so that it can end up that cheap. But like, realistically, there's like, there's not.
And I think a lot of people wanted like when we were like, thinking about the price per wear, but like if you bought a vintage t-shirt, say from us, like we got tons of t-shirts for $20, you're gonna be able to wear that shirt like 100 times more than that. You could keep it for like 5, 6, 7, 20 years, whatever. By the time you've worn that shirt 200 times, that shirt now costs, my math is wrong, 10 cents. 10 cents? Anyways, cents. So you're getting like more wares out of it than you would be the Shein top that you're gonna like break apart. A lot of people didn't care. They were like, I'm literally buying this for a vacation. I don't care if I lose it. I'm going traveling. I'm packing a bag. I know it's gonna get like ruined or lost.
Bridesmaid stuff. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
Like people buying like
Costumes.
a bridesmaid, like, you know, those fucking robes that they wear on the bridal parties and whatever that says like bride and bride to be, whatever the fuck. And then they just throw it in the garbage.
Yeah. So
Literally.
So that's just a mentality, I guess, that we need to like work on breaking.
What you said is important, like the economy of it, personally, because you're like, this shirt cost me $5. I'm gonna wear it once, right?
Yeah.
But then this shirt cost me $50, but I'm gonna wear it 100 times. Like per wear, the $50 shirt is cheaper.
Yeah.
Right.
And you could
people
probably
don't think about that
if it's of interest to you.
Exactly, and then you cash out at the end.
Yeah.
And that's why. Like with vintage stuff, like this stuff is all 20, 30, 40 years old. And you're like, it's still fucking going strong because it's made quality. They didn't think about throwing it out so fast. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, like I guess a lot of the reason that we went to this pop-up is to really dig into the psychology of like what drives somebody to shop there. And because like so many people are feeling that shame to shop there, it's like, okay, how are the people justifying this in their mind? And like, because there's like, I know you talk a lot about this of like, you know, when I'm like promoting all this like environmental stuff, and it's like that's not going to drive people to buy secondhand. Like the driving factor has to be like more it's like for something for themselves, whether it's like they want to be cool, it's like status.
It is like you said, it's got to be cooler, cheaper. There's some reason where you want to buy something, and it's not like there's a certain group of people who will solely use environmental reasons for their consumerism, right? They're like, I'm only going to shop sustainable. Those people are such a small portion, I think, and it's growing, but I still think it's super small. The rest of everybody else just wants to fucking look cool.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes too, because I'm like very like environmentally driven, but I think, would I buy secondhand clothes if it was like the most uncool thing ever? I don't know.
The most uncool thing ever. You're like, God, I hate my outfit, but at least it didn't.
Well, that's
like it's
why
to be like get real honest with yourself about like what's driving, like what's motivating you to buy something.
And that's it's okay if it's you want to look cool. But you know, it also is great to sleep well at night and know that what you did looking cool was also good for the planet.
And
you know, because that's what Frankie was. So when we never created Frankie in the beginning to be some environmental like thing where we were like, we're going to save the planet. But then eventually we're like, wow, what we are doing is creating a difference, right? Is creating a difference. So let's lean into that. And we lean into that. But we knew the whole time that it was like, you have to make it cool. You have to market it. You have to create sex appeal. And that's what you got to do.
And it can definitely be both. And that's the crazy thing about Shein. Like I kind of get it a bit more when people are shopping fast fashion at like the less ultra fast fashion companies like Urban Outfitters and H&M. And Zara. I get how those were a few places that people said were their favorites when we asked like where else they shop. Zara was a big one. I get you could get an outfit from there, and I could think like, oh, that person looks cool. If I didn't know where any of their stuff was from, I'd be like, that looks cool. You can like tell when something's from Shein. Like you can just see the quality. So I don't even think it looks good or cool. And I think like with the sleeping well at night thing, I think everybody in line, a part of them, even if they didn't care at all, knew that. Like a bit of them knows it was bad that they're like shopping.
Yeah, and like the thing I really don't understand is like, okay, buying from these places because you like financial need, or it's like, you know, you're plus size or whatever it is. You need something quickly. You need something that's disposable. But then it's like, how do people then go and like do these Shein hauls? It's almost like they're using it as like a badge of honor. Like, oh my God, I got so much stuff from Shein. And
like
it's like
$700 Shein haul. And those weren't the people in line, to be fair. I think those are the people getting paid by Shein to do that. Like, I think that's what they're the influencers getting paid. But
yeah, there was that to start with. But now like Shein, if you look up Shein haul on TikTok, people almost do Shein hauls just so they can go viral, because it's like you will almost definitely go viral if you do a Shein haul.
Yeah.
and it's like a cult.
Yeah.
So it's like, where how's that happening?
So this is they've created this allure for the company, for the brand, through these influencers, that if you buy this stuff, you will be in the club, right? You'll be in the club, and you'll maybe, just maybe, look like that hot, sexy influencer. Something I think about a lot is that it, like, today's fashion and today's kind of like social media world and marketing world, it's so sexualized, right? There's like, when I was a kid, like, you wouldn't see photos of like mostly naked. Like, you go on TikTok and there's like people, like, so much of the stuff they sell on Shein is so fucking skinty and scandalous, or whatever you want to call it. It's just like so over the fucking top. Of course that shit's gonna go viral because you have half naked women wearing it on fucking TikTok.
Yeah, true.
And a lot of it is like going out, wear costumes, stuff like that you are like, I'm
festival
going to the club,
stuff,
festival,
like the
stuff
festival
like that,
season, I think would have seen like a huge spike. I've read some stuff, but I can't remember.
I mean,
the numbers off the...
Revolve Fest is literally like at Coachella. Like, they literally host their own festival beside it. Revolve is all fast fashion, and they like pay everybody to be there or whatever.
That's what that is.
Yeah, I think so. But now I'm second guessing myself.
So Revolve is a festival and a brand?
It's called Revolve Fest.
I've heard of Revolve Fest, but is that also a brand?
I fucking hope so. I've said it now. I think it is Revolve.
Yeah.
I have heard of that brand, but I didn't know that
they like, that's them owning it.
The festival is well, it would make sense, I guess.
Yeah, Coachella is so much more, almost more about the fashion than anything else. It's insane.
I think though, the people, getting back to the people in line, they weren't these people doing these hauls. Like, a lot of them, when we were asking like, how much would you normally spend if you're shopping here, how often do you buy, it's like maybe once a month, if even that, like $20 kind of thing. So it's not like we're trying to say like these individual people or the people in line, we're not trying to shame them. It's not like you are the problem. The problem is like the company, but the consumers are driving the company, and everybody buying like little bits at a time. That pop-up had to have sold so many items to make it worth it for them to pay the rent on Granville.
I was thinking about this. Excuse me. I was thinking about this, and I don't even think they care. When they have that much money and they make that much money, this is probably solely a brand play.
Yeah, it's a marketing play.
Yeah, they're like, let's just get our brand out there, get a few more buyers, show that we're like not just this like hidden thing in China, but we're like coming to your town.
Because they would have gotten so many new people. Like I'd say like 80% of the people we talked to in line were like, this is my first time shopping at Shein.
Yeah, and if you subscribe to the no press is bad press mentality, then like they got a lot of fucking press. We're doing a podcast about it right now.
We're talking about them. We're feeding into it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, shit. Yeah. So it's like whatever they did is working for them, even though we're like trying to get people off them. They got news reports all over the place for this thing, right?
Yeah.
So
I think though, like, other than the price, it was very interesting to talk to people, and other than the price, which is like you can only go so low on the price without exploiting people, and there's like with vintage and stuff, like the price is the price. We're going to be putting it as cheap as we can because we want people to be able to buy it. And like when people start talking about the price being an issue, and people are always like, when we make videos like this, like, your vintage t-shirts cost $100, and it's like, we own you, and the rag machine is selling shit for cheaper than Value Village, and for the most part. Like, we're offering those cheaper solutions.
We pay the price that we pay for second-hand items costs more than an individual piece of like the recommended retail price from Shein. Which is insane. I think
so. We're paying more to acquire wholesale our garments than Shein charges retail.
So you just can't beat that. Like, there's nothing you could possibly do without paying people that you could like make that price. The cool thing, however, though, I do think we can offer that quite well, and almost better than a lot of companies that make their clothing, because we can be really reactive. Like, we can be like, this thing's happening right now, go pick this. It can be in our store by the end of the month, because it didn't have to be made, it didn't have to be designed. So I think that's a really cool thing about vintage, that one, it's cool in itself because it is kind of like not a trend, because I don't want to call it a trend, but something that people look for, like the vintage look, and then within that you can get those subsets of different
Even like
trends
the
that we could-
jerseys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I remember having a conversation with this guy. He was like super into jerseys, and I was like, oh, I never really picked those. Like this was before it started popping off. And then like, I don't know, probably 3-4 months later, it all of a sudden just came like heaps into fashion. And I was like, that's so cool, because, you know, as these trends keep getting cycled through, then it gives us an opportunity to start selling things that, you know, maybe weren't like that, were just like going to sit there in a warehouse or in landfill or whatever.
Yeah.
So like there is some benefits to these trends, even like these rugby jerseys, like that are coming in, or like, I don't know, this is obviously not rugby, but you know, this style of
It's rugby.
yeah.
Fish.
Yeah.
I
was like,
we need
nah,
trends.
not into
we need
it.
trends.
Yeah.
We can't. We would not have business without trends.
Even the Carhartt trend. Like
Car trends, fucking godsend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's so
like,
great,
it's
'cause
driving such a big part of the business.
yeah, which is super. So they are really beneficial in
Yeah.
like selling secondhand clothes for us.
And
I
like
think-
you said, vintage is not a trend. Vintage
Yeah.
is now solidified itself.
It's like
I mean,
popular.
it's
but not
it's
trend.
I would say it's like it's just a sector of fashion now.
Yeah.
It's its own sector, and within that, just like every sector, trends come and go.
Yeah. And I think too, like the word trend doesn't have to be like this taboo bad thing. Like I think people talk about micro trends, and those are bad in that when they're being produced, all this stuff is being bought for 1 month, and then everybody fucking hates that piece of clothing afterwards, and then it obviously is going to end up in the trash. But like trends are natural, and they're always cycling through, and they can be like they can be healthy things within reason that like keeps businesses like us like going, and then
Yeah.
we can find
Totally.
like style and
Totally.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
And like Amy said, it allows us to like pick different things.
Yeah.
And you kind of need it, or else like if say there was no fashion trends,
Yeah.
people would be like, I went to your store once and I don't have to go again.
I got my
I'm
great
good
t-shirt
now
and
for
I
3
left.
years.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, well,
Exactly.
there's no business model here.
Yeah.
So definitely it's important in like the secondhand clothing market that these things keep getting cycled through, because there's so many clothes that already exist, like enough to clothe like the next 6 generations. Like if we don't have trends, like there's going to be a lot of things that we can never sell. So
Yeah.
And to further that, like the fast fashion companies aren't creating the trends.
No.
They're reacting to the
following
trends.
them, yeah.
The vintage world is creating the trends way more so than the fast fashion.
Yeah.
Like,
The vintage was like the map of the trends. Like
Yeah.
they're just getting
Yeah.
like different chunks of it are getting like put to the front. It's like
Yeah.
it's like game where you like put something. It's like logs, falling logs.
there's a
Putting them
wicked
back to the front.
book called it's about pandemics, like, but it's not about like disease pandemics, like how epidemics happen like within fashion and stuff. I forget the name of the book.
Sounds cool.
I'll try to put it on screen if I remember. Anyway, this book talks about how fashion trends happen, and it starts with like just some cool person in New York City or LA wearing something, and then it like hits like a second level where like they're called like mavens within like the trend cycle, and then like another group of people take it, and then like it spawns, and then it goes crazy. Like somebody somewhere at some point was like, I'm gonna wear Carhartts for fashion. That was like one person.
Yeah.
It started with one person, and someone was like, that looks fucking cool, I'm gonna do that too.
I love that.
You know, and then that's how it happens, and it always happens typically within vintage, because those companies have to take the trend that was already something and remake it.
Yeah, which I think is what's so great about vintage and secondhand is it forces people to find their unique individual style. Whereas like the thing with fast fashion, it's like copy paste of like hundreds of thousands of the exact same outfit, the exact same item. And then it just makes people like everybody's just copying each other, but it's not like a inspiration. It's like a carbon copy.
Yeah.
And like that I don't think is good for anybody, because you know, if we all just kind of lean into our own personal style, and I just feel like it feels more authentic.
Yeah. I think also like forcing yourself to be like, okay, I want that thing. I think that outfit looks cool, but I'm going to take my time to find it. Makes you think about how it's going to like work in your wardrobe, how you're going to style it. If you even really want that, after 3 weeks, you're like, I actually don't need the Detroit jacket. I like this jacket instead. And you're like thinking about it more rather than like, I just saw a video of somebody wearing these pants. I'm going to find it on Shein. It's going to be on my door in 10 days. Then I'm going to stop wearing it in 2 weeks kind of thing.
So true. Yeah, it really does force you to slow down. Like I really wanted like moto boots.
Yeah.
And you can obviously buy them like from fast fashion brands, but like I just haven't been able to find them secondhand in my size
We
yet.
have like 5.
No, not the kind that I want.
Oh, okay.
They're a very specific style.
Okay.
They're like not exactly. So then I just like, it forces me to just wear these like cowboy boots that I've had for like years.
Yeah. And then you got to think about it and like curate your own closet and style and stuff in a better way. And that takes the power back out of the hands of fast fashion companies.
Yeah.
Totally. And we all know this. Wearing something vintage is way fucking cooler than wearing something new. Yeah. It's just the way it is. It's like you've put the time in, you've put the energy in, you found something cool. The quality's almost 99% always going to be better.
Yeah. And what makes something cool is that it is your unique thing. Like I think that's when cool, quote unquote cool people do things, it's because they made it up. When you're copying someone, it's not doing it because
it's like their thing. You can tell when somebody is like wearing exactly like authentically something themselves. And I feel like that's like when we're saying like, oh, like how can we like keep up with like the ease and the convenience of like these fast fashion companies? It's like, well, we do have like one step ahead. Like you're saying, like the trends are coming from stuff that already exists that we have access to. And in a way we might not be able to jump on the micro trends as quickly, but I don't even know if we really want to do that. We have access to the authentic real garments.
Like more of classic items like
that are going to last in your wardrobe way more than any of these companies could even make. They can't make that.
Yeah. So I guess to recap on like what our findings were for anybody that's like listening to this from that post that we did, because we were like, we're going to tell everybody about like what we found out from this Shein pop-up. Price, convenience, and I would say also like feeding into the niche market of like plus size was a big one as well.
We had heard that quite a lot too.
What, they had plus size or they didn't?
Yeah, Shein massively markets to the plus size, like I guess like consumer. Because it's like that, obviously it's really hard to find inclusive sizes in a wide variety of sizes, styles. So then Shein is just like hooked into that like so hard. And you can get like
smart.
Pretty like it's a really big size range that they carry. So and that's a tough one because like then moving into like how we can try and fill that gap and provide like the more like responsible alternative. Size is such like how we're kind of coming back to like that everything is just what's that word? Everything's owned by the same people. Monopolized. Yep. So like that's such a tough one because I think like this small like secondhand industry is made of just like so many small businesses, and it's really hard to be like, how can we as small businesses in the secondhand industry compete with the likes of a $68 billion corporation? Like
can't really.
It's just hard. It's like, how can we find a way? I think this is like something I think about so much is how can we unify the secondhand industry so that we can all like, I guess, reap the benefits of selling secondhand, but as like a unified front. Because
you guys, we can all join the Patreon.
Yeah, join the Patreon.
Yeah, that's a tough one. How do we? Because like everybody wants to like unify, but also then there's a lot of people in this business that are like, "Fuck, I'm only out for myself in this business too," right? So there's like, it's tricky, and I mean, the first step is having these kind of conversations. But what is the answer? It's like human nature. We're fighting against like we're fighting against human nature. We're fighting
David
against
and Goliath.
That like we're not really fighting against like the owner of Shein, I would say, because it's like he's just he wouldn't be where he is if the people weren't buying his shit. You know what I mean? It's the people that is the problem. Not him.
We're like shooting ourselves in the foot because we're feeding the problem. And then we are like getting the backlash from the problem, Like,
I think one answer is the education, which you guys are doing. Like, if more people educate about this, so that it builds the clientele for the vintage business, as a whole.
Okay.
So it builds this business as a whole. Like if we all educate, the more people come in, and everybody already is helping because we're opening stores and you have more access to vintage clothing. What are you getting, sun in the face?
Yeah, it's like
Oh.
cutting off half of my face.
It's all her
like,
brain power.
You get the spotlight on you. And you know, the business is growing for the last like we've had the most exponential growth in the last like say 5 years of this business as a whole than ever. So it's like it is happening. But I guess something that I think about with this, it's like vintage is a subsect of fashion. It's a subsect, like it's a certain demographic, right? We probably can't get all those fast fashion people to come into vintage.
Yeah.
Because first of all, like we're selling like mid to higher end stuff. It's like, it's trend based. It's like youthful to some degree. Sure, all people shop with us, but it's like you're not going to have like a lot of older people at this point. And also probably because they grew up in a society where vintage was not cool and it was frowned upon to have used clothing, which becomes like an inherent fucking thing deep in your brain. Even if you say that you want to help, you still have that, like, if you grew up in a time when they were like, it's like people who grew up in depression. They're like so programmed to save money beyond all else.
Yeah.
I do feel like though with a lot of like older people shopping, like you hit that nostalgic mark that they really like. Or also I'd say like they just don't feel the need to shop as much as like maybe the younger generation does. They're like, I've had this coat for 10 years, it's still fine. Why do I need to go get another coat? Like I don't need to.
Yeah.
Or I feel like a lot of like older people, like I'm saying like, I don't know, maybe like 40 plus, like quality is a huge issue. So I don't see them shopping at like places like fast fashion companies as much.
I think that's true.
Although that the demographic was a woman 35 years old.
I do feel like 30s is quite true.
35 is like
it's interesting. And I what I was getting with that is like the young generation is growing up in a time when vintage is like their thing. Yeah. And like shopping secondhand and thrifting is fucking cool. So they're going to grow up now into this world of like, that's cool. And they're going to tell their kids that this is cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully this just keeps continuing to grow and grow and grow. But something that I thought about was we're not going to be able to replace that for all fast fashion, right? On that level. But like there is ideas that would work, which would be more generalized, like secondhand stores. Like we have the rag machine, which we use as like our thrift, and we sell very affordably. Like it's cheaper than the thrift stores.
Literally cheaper in Valley Village,
But I guess my thought is like, can you go into the rag machine and get that same stuff that they're fiending from Shein? The same like aesthetic or the same type of garments or the same type of thing that is feeding the dopamine rush that they're somehow getting from this fucking Shein company.
Yeah, and that's like something that I've thought a lot about is like how can we provide that? Like they want to shop online, I think is predominantly like, you know, people get this big dopamine rush of getting this huge package of clothes. And I know it's something that you've like kind of spoken a little bit about with like the like subscription based models, like rentals, things like that. But can that even be as cheap as Shein? I don't know.
No, hell no. And the carbon footprint of that is so high.
Well,
that it
maybe
negates.
not as high as making it from scratch and shipping it.
No, more.
What?
Because
just washing it and shipping it?
you're reshipping it back and forth 1,000 times if it's a rental.
True.
Yeah, but rather than making 1,000 new shirts.
But you wouldn't.
Because like
I don't have like all the data, but I do know that the carbon footprint is very high on like shipping back and forth.
For shipping, but like also you think about like if you make something from scratch, you've got all of the resources in order to like grow the cotton, produce the fabric, produce the garment, then it gets shipped over to wherever it's getting shipped to, then it's probably getting shipped all around in the secondhand industry until it ends up in the landfill eventually. At least this is keeping it in circulation. I feel like washing and shipping is still going to be less than producing and just ending up in landfill.
We'll have to see. Next episode.
This again is like why I say there is no
nothing's sustainable.
And it really comes down to like your personal guidelines. What you think is good for you, your own morals, what makes you sleep well at night. What can you do that's going to allow you to sleep well at night
and feel cool? I think with the dopamine hit thing, a lot of it is just like not just I found the piece that I wanted, because I feel like if you're delaying your gratification for like a month, like you're searching for these moto boots for like months and months. After like 6 months of searching, you find those boots, you're going to feel on top of the world. Like, you're so much better than if you Googled moto boot and then bought it today and it's going to be at your door for 2 weeks. So I feel like it's not as much like, like what they're looking for. It's like I guess they're just looking for it, I don't know, like really fast or like the very specific
instant
thing.
gratification. Your dopamine rush on when you get the boots finally is going to be like through the fucking roof.
Yeah, which I think a lot of vintage like buyers will understand, because that's why a lot of us do what we do. And like thrifting, you get that like the thrill of the hunt and finding something unique that fits you really well, whereas like these people that are shopping more secondhand, they're just like getting like they're got like the, you know, addicted to like that instant gratification
and the instant gratification on something that's like brand new and like that trend that they saw today that they wanted to wear tomorrow to not wear the next day kind of thing.
And this whole thing is because of where our society is with social media.
That's like a
and
mentality that we need to break,
which
rather
is
than something
very
we
hard
need to follow,
because it's like it's how the youth now are being brought up in this world to understand instant gratification is at your fingertips.
Although we keep saying youth, and then it's like you keep going back to the demographic being
35-year-old woman making 65.
Because a lot of the kids that we saw, there weren't that many. A lot of the people in line
were
older, not middle age. I guess 35 isn't middle age, but like
probably older than 35 in the line.
Yeah, there wasn't that many kids, and a few of the kids that we did talk to literally came. Shout out to those 3 girls that came to the store later.
I reckon there was quite a lot of people like late 40s even.
Yeah. And a few of the people that talked to us that did seem a bit angrier were like, I don't care. I'm buying this and I'm literally going to throw it out. Like, those girls that were like.
They were younger, And so I think that comes back to another thing like that we learned is like, trying to find like people have this need for really temporary like single use clothing. Essentially they want to have something that they literally can feel okay about throwing out, and that's because of the like, you know, they're okay if they spend $3 on something. They're like, oh fuck it, I'll just throw it out afterwards. It's like it literally
I don't even know if that's an issue that we can tackle. Like I feel like that starts to go into like a legislative issue, like the same way that we have to legislate out single-use plastics,
which is like there was a bill.
But you could legislate for, like you're saying that this stuff comes in tariff free, right? Duty free, which is like we could.
They actually did just change that in the States. They were going to change that.
Yeah,
if it goes through,
if they start to high duty this fast fashion crap, that then means it's not as cheap as it was, and it's comparable to buying something else. Then like people are going to shop local again.
Yeah, and like on that note, a bill just did get approved in like the lower house of parliament in France against fast fashion. Targeting fast fashion brands, like definitely the advertising, and I think they have to have like more like transparency on like the environmental impact of the clothing. Like,
you know what I think about when you were talking about the influencers and stuff before? I was like picturing the Fire Fest campaign.
It's
where like it seems like it's awesome. You're like, this is going to be the best party of my life, and then you get there and you get like white bread and some piece of lettuce. That's like what happens when you order from Shein. You're like, this girl's so sexy in her Shein thing, I'm gonna look like that, and then you get it and it's like womp womp. It's a piece of shit.
So true.
A flat piece of clothing, like they literally just cut a shape out. You should like see the dresses, they're like literally cut like BBL.
What you don't see is like 50 pins on the back of the model to make it look nice on her.
Jackie just did a really funny reel about that actually, where it was like you do like that weird filter that makes you look really like
because it is, and I think
ugly.
I'm very interested to see what having so many brick and mortar shops is going to do for them, because I can't see it being a positive thing. Everybody that we talked to that had come out, which weren't that many people, but we talked to a few and they were like, it was awful in there. Like it was so bad. All the items were like just not cool. Like they said, it was all like the shit stuff left at the end. I guess it was the last day. It was only like the smallest and the largest sizes left. And then they said the 3 little girls were like, it was so millennial in there. And I was like, what? It's like, don't make me feel old right now. So crazy. But no, they were like,
so now millennial is an older generation.
Yeah, millennial.
What is millennial? Am I millennium?
Yeah,
You probably are.
yeah, I think it's like 28 to like 35.
Yeah,
I know I'm not then.
I'm
You're-
like just
I'm
out
like-
of it.
I'm a
borderline
boomer.
borderline. I think they are like Gen X or something like that. But yeah, they
Oh,
said it was all like
God.
the really shit t-shirts left with like the really like lame slogans like hashtag feminist or like whoa, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee, like those kind of shit left in there. So they said it wasn't good. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what this does for people thinking, like if that'll make people shop more from them or less. I can't see it doing
and I
good
think
stuff.
like if Shein ever did open brick and mortar stores, they would, you know, their claim to fame is that they don't have all this waste because they're not holding on to inventory.
Yeah.
If they ever had brick and mortar stores, that wouldn't be a thing,
And
because they would have to then stock an entire store.
Yeah.
And all these shit ass t-shirts that are
Aren't
like,
gonna sell.
don't talk to me before I have my coffee, whatever, wouldn't sell. And then they would be like, oh, well, there goes that marketing ploy.
Yeah, and they'd have to be more expensive because they'd have to pay rent and actual wages for the people in the country too. So it'd have to be more expensive. So I don't see it working. Hopefully not.
They
I don't want to
wouldn't.
see a Shein shop.
Yeah,
in
that's
Vancouver
a good
again.
question. They would.
Thank
Yeah,
God.
I wonder if they would, or they would just. Did they say they're planning on actually opening stores, or is this just a
I
quick?
think
No.
it just said pop-up
Yeah.
spreading across.
So I bet you they're just marketing this. They'll keep everyone shopping online.
Yeah.
Oh, I tried to get us.
I'd love to know how much they did in sales over the 4 days. If
Yeah, that'd
anybody
be
knows
so sick.
anybody that would know that information.
Yeah, how do we find that out? I could
really wanna
just
know.
email Milka.
Yeah, email her. I'm just gonna tell you that, but we'll see.
She has a hard She has like an NDA that
Yeah.
certain things she
She's
can't talk
probably even
about.
like, don't say my name.
For those of you wondering what we're talking about, it's the PR rep that
Came up and
Was-
talked to us.
yeah.
At the pop-up, but she said she wasn't an official spokesperson.
She couldn't go on the
couldn't-
record because he wanted to obviously
Yeah.
interview her and put her on video, but she wouldn't.
She didn't.
She wasn't. But I do have her email, so I can ask her if you have any questions you want me to ask
Put
her.
her email.
Yeah, her email and phone number.
Everybody
we're
email
BFFs
her.
now.
Just bombard her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
How much money
send
does she-
in your questions.
yeah. We'll ask her then.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's recap this.
Yeah.
What are things that we can do here? We, obviously we can educate like you guys are doing. Education is key. Let people know what they're actually buying so they can understand. Because like we've said in this episode, a lot of people probably don't understand what they're buying is even bad.
Yeah. It's cheap because somebody didn't get paid.
And it's bad for them
Should get
too.
that as a tattoo.
Bad for the environment, bad for people, bad for them, bad for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's monopolizing industry, which is bad for you guys listening to this because you're mostly people who sell clothing. What else to recap here?
I guess like why Shein is the worst is just like the absolute quantity that they're doing and the like monopolization that they have over the industry.
Yeah, like
is a
double
big
the
one.
size of H&M and Zara. For all the people that are going to come at us for like poor people are like relying on Shein.
Yeah.
It's not poor people that are driving the $68 billion in revenue, or like 58, I think is the revenue. $68 billion is the valuation. But yeah, like how can poor people drive that much revenue? Like they don't have that much money.
It's not that. It's not. They're not.
There's
the
only 7
issue.
billion people
Yeah.
on the planet. So yeah, you'd still have to be spending quite
You
a
do
lot of
the math.
money. Yeah. No, 8
Yeah,
billion
that's a
people.
tricky one. There was a time in America where, a family of 4 or 5 people could have one person go to work, afford a house, afford great clothes, afford a beautiful car, and that's how it was. Now our society is so far from that; it's fucked. So like it's a very deeper economic discussion of that. But I think most people could afford to shop at least in a thrift store, which is still fucking locally.
Or at the rag machine.
It's
cheaper.
Yeah. So the other thing we can do as a vintage community is, know that you have to you still have to market and make it sexy. I hate to keep using that word, but you do.
Yeah,
you
and there are
make it
like a
sexy.
certain portion of vintage sellers that are like really into selling like true vintage or like really niche, like things like that. But like, I guess depending on
If you
what
want
you're...
to be in competition with like if you want to do that, that's like great. A lot of people make like all the money that need to make from the bed. But if you want to be in competition with any type of like
and
fast
taking
fashion,
part of the market share of
what really truly, you kind of have to feed into their game of like making it cool, making it sexy, making it like for like marketable to younger people that are going to be coming in and shopping.
And like we can, I don't have the answer to this, but like try to make it that club, right? Like how do you make it that club where people are more stoked to post? And a lot of people are their vintage hauls versus their Shein hauls. And how do we get that Shein haul girly to be like, I'm going to show you my sustainable haul now.
Like this is way cooler. Like let's make Shein not cool. And Shein vintage and secondhand. Cool. Yeah, like people that need Shein can buy it, but let's not make it a thing that people are like, oh my God, look at how much Shein I bought. Like that should be something you just like, that's on the DL. Like I don't want anybody to know that I just bought $600 worth of Shein. I mean,
nobody
stuff.
In the line wanted to know that they wanted us to know that they were in line.
Yeah, so.
And then I guess convenience was the last ticker, trying to be as convenient for people as possible.
And that's like a lot about like being online, which is tough for vintage because everything's one off.
True. A lot of people did mention like, oh, if you have an online store, and I was like, we do.
And it's a really hard thing with traffic, like getting traffic to a store, like especially as a small business, I think, and that's the thing about this monopolization of the industry. It's so tough as like a tiny little small business to drive traffic.
So we need to band together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think online is convenient, but I think having vintage stores now, like in every town, is also convenient. You know, I mean, like everybody has access to a vintage store.
And I think it's like a lot as well. If you've got like a brick and mortar store, about like merchandising things in a way that's like really easy for people to shop and having a level of customer service that helps people shop, because that's the thing with these fast fashion brands is it's just so like it's handed to them on a plate, you know, on a silver platter of like, this is what you're going to buy. You walk into the store
here's
and
your
you're
outfit,
like,
here's a model wearing the whole thing. This is what you wear to go out with your bridesmaids. Like,
so I think our responsibility as secondhand clothing like sellers, retailers, is to help people, you know, navigate the store, navigate, you know, the trends, and like this is how
making it easy for them to find, like, because a lot of people like I want to feel like this, I want to look like this, but I don't know how to find that. I don't have the energy to go through racks and racks and racks at Value Village. So
customer service is like so key.
Yeah, totally. You do a good job, Bronte.
Thank you.
She kills it.
Come in, we'll kitch you out.
So I think, this comes back to the three things in business that are, well, they're everything. You can either be cheaper, better, or more convenient, right? And like a lot of what we're talking about is that. It's like make it more convenient, make it easier, which is like better customer service, better access to the product. You know, we can make it cheaper. That's super hard. You know, we try to make it as affordable as we can for the value that we provide. But we also still have to like pay the bills, pay expenses, buy the fucking product, make money. So
and
it's
I think that's about like education of like the perception of what something like price per wear. And also with the, like most vintage stores now do buy and sell, like getting people to understand that they can sell their items back to us and like make money back on their vintage helps like lower that cost of their garment. It's like essentially you're renting it almost.
Yeah, which is, you know, a great topic for some content. Of how you can sell it back. Buy it and sell it back. And you're like, now your cost of your garment went way down, especially when you add in the cost per wear.
And I think that makes you have to start caring for your garment a bit better too. You can't just like treat it like trash and expect it not to be trash after a few wears. Like if you want to make your money back on it or like keep it in your closet for 5+ years, and you have to care about it a little bit.
Sometimes it increases in value as well. So if you bought something, you know, that was like, it was whatever, it was in a vintage store, it cost whatever price, and then all of a sudden a celebrity wears it and it just skyrockets. You sell it back to that vintage store, you might get even more money for it.
And you're not getting those garments that can do that from any fast fashion retailer. It's only going to be either like luxury or vintage.
Like, one of my questions was going to be, do we ever think that Shein will be cool for vintage like in 20 years? Are we gonna be like, that's the first round Shein shit, you know what I mean?
God.
I don't think it's gonna last. It's
it
gonna be in a
last.
landfill burning and creating plastic puddles.
But it's crazy to me that now when you look at the timeline, so we were talking about this off camera before, the polo assassin stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
And like now with these kids, I was shocked. I saw this kid holding up this shirt. It's the Polo Association thing, which is like the fake Polo brand, right?
Uh-huh.
And that shit was like that shit is like the worst fast fashion, but yet it still has some longevity. It still has some like age to it. Like it's Y2K, right? And even what's the fuck? Old Navy, right? Old Navy's like, you know, now there's vintage Old Navy. And some kids are like getting nostalgic for Old Navy.
Yeah, like vintage Forever 21, vintage hot
yeah, like
chocolate.
I mean, Shein is so far from that, it's hard to say.
But then it's also like those companies back then maybe were caring a bit more for the quality. Yeah, the quality might have still been better than what's being produced now. Because what you said, the most garments found in that clothing desert were Old Navy garments. So the biggest amount, like the numbers wise, the highest amount was Old Navy in this like clothing waste or dump.
Yeah, it's like in the Atacama Desert where it's like where the largest textile dump is in the world. So big you can see it from outer space. And yeah, they did like investigations, and Old Navy was the most that they found in there.
Yeah, and when you look at that too, it's always such a small percentage of what they made ends up being cool for later generations. It's like the best quality stuff or like a certain line they made that people resonate with or something. So it's like so much of it just is trash. Shein will probably not be that. It will never be cool again.
Yeah, don't hold on to your Shein or just don't buy it in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
So any final words?
I don't know. I want to underline, we're not trying to shame people that feel like they have to buy Shein for pricing purposes
or
and like your wallet or your
like
sizing
and things like that.
We're just trying to bring up as much information and solutions and other
and just
options
like
as
if
possible.
you do need to buy Shein for the pricing, for sizing or whatever, it's like just still be really mindful. Like don't just put like 50 items in your cart because they're $3. Just think about like try and have the same mentality around buying Shein as you would something that's more expensive. And think, do I really need this? How many times am I going to wear it? What's it going to go within my wardrobe? All that kind of stuff.
A bit more conscious buying just in general.
And I know it's hard because like a lot of people, they're like, fast fashion is cheaper, it's going to cost me less. But it's not really, because when you like have this like multitude of things that you can buy for $3, you often are buying like way more than you think you like, than you intended to, than you wanted to. So you end up buying more, which is costing you more money. It's like shitty quality, so it will break. You won't obviously get the wears as much as if you bought something like that was more expensive. And also it's just like you don't care about it when you just like buying something that's $3. You're like a lot of people in the line were saying, that they buy something to go on a European vacation that they intend to literally just leave in Europe because they don't give a fuck. It's like $3, you know?
Yeah.
So just like don't kind of just think about it.
Yeah, rewire your whole brain.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Basically.
Okay. So like I said already, you know, you have to decide for yourself what's okay for you. You know, we're here to put the education out there. By no means are we perfect as people, especially myself, you know, but I think we all as vintage dealers have the option to like help this problem. We're even if you don't care about this problem, you're still helping it by being in the vintage business. It's something to acknowledge, and you know, you can, you know, it's long term going to be a part of hopefully fighting this demon fast fashion. But I was going to do this earlier, but let's end it with a fit check. Let's have a fit check.
Ooh, okay. I just got this yesterday from Evs and Frank.
Did you cut it?
I did cut it. Yeah, I gave it a little snip and a little pin. And then these are my housemates' jeans. I think they're vintage Levi's. I don't know what number though. They
look like a 501. Are they buttonfly
I think
or
they
zipper
might be
fly?
a 505. I think they're pretty straight.
They've been like,
they're okay.
They've been upcycled.
They've been pinned. They've been darted, so the patch has been taken off. But they're Levi's. I think they're a 505. They're pretty straight.
Nice.
That's what we're rocking with today. Simple.
Yeah, I've got this. I got on from downstairs. Literally just put it on.
You just put that on when you got here?
Yeah, because I was like, I didn't like my top that I had on before, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to get something out of the warehouse, so I just put this on. And then this skirt is like
very cute.
I got this at the rag yard last time. I think it was
skirt.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty
black cowboy boots on.
Replacements for
no moto boots
no
yet.
moto boots yet.
One day.
I think I know what kind you want. I want those too.
Yeah, they're really cool. What do you got, Andre?
I have this the heartbeat shirt.
Oh, there we go. That's pretty
The
cool.
Anatomy of a Heart. LL Bean denim.
Yes.
LL Beaner. I got some Carhartts on.
Double
This is a
Ds.
new Huff hat. But I like Huff. Skate brand. Yeah.
It's H for
Very
Huffits.
nice.
H for Heifetz, yeah.
Imagine twist turntables. We're all wearing Shein.
Yeah.
Our whole outfits are Shein at the end of the.
The replicas, the
Yeah.
vintage replicas.
So, last thing we will say, we haven't talked about too much on the podcast, but F as in Frank has been growing. We now have 4 locations, including the one that we're in right now, which is the warehouse, which is also open to
This is
the public.
secret gem, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So much good shit
tell
here.
them.
Yeah, this one has like all of the stuff. So all of this, all of the product gets sent to Squamish and then sent out to our other 3 stores. So if you're anywhere near Squamish, like hot
it out.
insider
Yeah.
tip, this is where all the good shit is.
You're shopping it first. You
This
may have
is
to
like
change in a makeshift change room, but you
It's a
also get
tent.
25%
Yeah.
off if you shop.
If you're only if you're from Squamish.
Oh, only if you're from.
Yeah, the
sorry.
Squamish
Move to
vibes.
Squamish.
The Squamish vibes are warehouse outlets. So
Yeah.
it's like it's a warehouse. We have a little changing tent for you or the bathroom.
Yeah, you don't get the customer
Sometimes
service,
things
but-
are priced. Sometimes they're not yet priced, and we'll tell you a price. But it's everything comes here and gets sorted, and then goes out to all the other 3 locations.
Yeah.
Which tell them about those, Bronte.
We just opened Gastown in December, so that's on the corner of Canby and Cordova. I manage there. You'll see Jade and Cam there on a daily basis. It's a bit smaller than the Main Street location, but really nicely and thoughtfully curated. It's a great spot. You got to check it out. And then Main Street, it's been rocking.
It's like our
since-
superstore.
yeah.
Well, we want to turn it into like a superstore. It's huge.
It's
Main
massive.
Street is since
a big dog.
2009.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that
then
one's-
attached to that is a rag machine, which is our like cheaper option, thrift option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we got Holly managing down in Whistler. Whistler used to be up in Whistler. It used to be the Velvet Underground. We're now F as in Frank. Join the family.
Yeah.
Check that one out there if you're ever hitting the slopes
Lots of
or
cool
going
stuff
hiking
in
or
there.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big one as well.
Yeah, that one's got 2
Pretty big.
floors.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah. And more coming soon.
More coming soon. Very fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys
Thanks
for joining
listening.
me.
Thanks,
Thank
Drew,
you.
for like
Thank
giving us
you.
this platform to talk about fast fashion because it's not your usual content, but
Yeah.
hopefully it didn't bore everybody.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully.
If you stayed till the end, cheers.
thank
Thanks
you.
for listening.
Appreciate
And
you.
I'm happy to do it. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Peace out.